Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, guys, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. That's how we get the word out about what we do. I'm excited for our guest today. Jon and I just met. He travels, sounds like a little bit like I do, all over the place. So I have that in common. He's also in financial services with Longevity Financial Partner. We'll get into that. It sounds really interesting using health and wealth kind of combined, if I got that right. So we'll definitely touch on that. Welcome to the show, Jon.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Angela.
Awesome. Well, let's get into let's get into life. So, have you always been an entrepreneur? Let's start with that. You told me before you're a serial entrepreneur. Have you always been an entrepreneur your whole life? And if not, what got you into it?
I think I have. Yes.
Yeah.
Although I didn't, day one start out, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. So what I like to, but I come from a family of entrepreneurs. I'm a
Oh
third
yeah.
generation entrepreneur. So my grandfather was a really interesting entrepreneur. I didn't know my great grandparents, but my grandfather on my paternal side, my father's side, was a really fascinating entrepreneur, very successful. My father has been a very successful self-made entrepreneur. And then, I think it's in my DNA, so to speak, to become one. And, but my career certainly started working at different companies, getting educated, went to law school, University of Minnesota Law School, worked in tax accounting with E&Y, worked Jeffries and Company on Wall Street. So I've done a lot of that. What I like to say is I acquired a lot of skills and core competencies then to become an entrepreneur, right? And so, yeah, so I've always been an entrepreneur in my head, but I worked probably, close to a decade post undergraduate to acquire skills and expertise and even my own voice to become an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Cool. What are some challenges that you think people have to overcome in order to be an entrepreneur? And, what are some of the ones maybe you've worked through or would give guys, people a tip on things so they can avoid them?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I just wrote a book. I'm going to mention it. It's called Healthy,
Yes.
Wealthy Longevity. And in the book, I pay specific attention to this question of entrepreneurship
Hmm.
and address exactly that question. I mean, the premise of the book is we all need some level of prosperity in our lives. And the way we get that is through work. And for those who choose to be an entrepreneur in their work, it deserves some special attention because you're gonna really encounter some things that are unique, some challenges that are very, very unique. And what I learned through that process, and we talked a little bit about this in the pre-interview, was this idea of how do you keep your mind positive? How do you know when to quit? And that's a really interesting question in and of itself for entrepreneurs. I mean, I cite multiple, or I should say several kind of key, some of the most famous companies that we know of that had moments where it looked like it was all over. And by all accounts, it was all over. But yet, these companies today are some of the most storied companies in our life. And so, I think the biggest challenge that an entrepreneur does face is at times things look very bleak. And so, when is quitting? What is quitting? And I like the SEALs story. It's quitting is only when you give up.
Right.
So there is no quit. But yet when you're in an entrepreneur and you're losing money and all these things, I mean, okay, I mean this isn't a marathon, this isn't 26.2, this is my life. So this is my checkbook. So that's a really interesting, I think, predicament that entrepreneurs face. My favorite entrepreneurial book is The Innovation Stack by Jim McClevey. Fascinating, wonderful book. Jim was the founder of Square, the little processing service, which
Okay.
he founded with Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey founder Twitter, and he hired Jack when Jack was just a kid working at his mom's coffee shop. So there's some wonderful things in that book that I would say for entrepreneurs, Innovation Stack, highly recommend. Read that, get into Jim's idea because entrepreneurs, by definition, he said, talks about this, are outlaws. They're working outside the rules. they're doing things that shouldn't be done by definition. And so, how do you keep your mind positive? How do you keep moving forward? How do you know that the road continues when it looks really bleak? Those are all just, just a tiny bit of questions and challenges you, the entrepreneur, are going to face in your journey.
So good. So let's touch a little bit about what you're doing with longevity financial planning, I guess, using health and wealth. Tell us a little bit about that.
Longevity Financial Partners, again, I've been working in and around the financial services industry for almost 2 decades. I commercialized molecular biomarkers of health and aging, trying to reinvent the life insurance underwriting protocol so they wouldn't have to collect blood and medical records and piss. I mean, it's just so horrible if you've ever either bought a life insurance policy or tried to sell one to someone and just say, okay, no, well, now you just got to get a syringe. They're going to extract 3 vials of blood and you got to go piss in a cup. I mean, it's like so horrible. So how could we reinvent that? And so I began working on this idea of reinventing. I mean, there's so many things that can be done that couldn't be done. And so I commercialized what are called epigenetic biomarkers to be derived from saliva that would give the underwriters more insight into healthy aging than they could from the blood and the pee and the medical records. I mean, they're living in 1965. Anyways, point being is longevity and the idea of how long we live is so fundamental to every financial product and service a client is going to buy. In fact, longevity science is so fundamental to the life insurance industry, but they weren't even paying any attention to innovations that are going on there. But even as we, as financial advisors, talk to their clients about products and strategies, what's really important to the client is, well, what's the role of money? What does healthy aging look like? And is this money going to serve, I'll call living a better life? And so really when we think about financial planning, there's a whole additional conversation that I think as financial planners, if we were having with clients around healthy aging and the role of money, we would help them really achieve their goals and aspirations as human beings. So I've been working, Longevity Financial Partners is bringing, I'll call awareness of healthy aging. What does it look like? I've an exclusive license with the folks at Blue Zones. Blue Zones are these, there's a Netflix documentary out there and talking about blue zones where Dan Buettner discovered 5 regions in the world, very disparate. Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, Icaria, Greece, Loma Linda, California, where populations were living measurably longer and were measurably happier. And he found commonalities. What are those common features that all these populations are doing? So trying to bring these concepts of what does healthy aging look like, particularly as so many of us are now aging, and kind of trying to help bring that back into the conversation, and then talk about, okay, how does financial planning serve, living a best life? So
What do
that's a long-winded answer, but that's what we're doing.
So what do you find people, if you could say one or two things that people could really focus on for healthier living, what would those be?
Well, they're really the simple things. I mean, I don't, um, right? Eat wisely, right? Eat wisely, move more, right? Live with purpose and connect with others. Those are the 4 critical kind of ways in which to think about your life. And now you've got a lot of, I'll call optionality. Well, I like to eat salad. Oh, great. We'll eat more salads. That's a healthy, clean way to eat. I like to eat beef. Okay, well then get clean, grass-fed, eat animal proteins. That's okay. Move more. I like to walk. I like to run. I like to swim. I like to bike. Whatever that is, I like to garden. Get more movement. I want to connect with others. I want to connect. I connect through church. I connect through my job. I connect through my, so those are the ways in which, you know, to think about healthy aging and to examine our own behaviors in a way that brings more of those good things to us.
And what would you say to the person that's like, I don't like to do any of those things, and therefore they're overweight, health is not good. What would you say to them?
I would say that's okay. It's all good. I mean, everyone's got their own journey. I'm not prescriptive. If that's your journey, that's your journey. But what I would also say is, there are people who love you. There are people who care for you. They you if you engage in self-care, you're in a better position to help others and care for others. And so I would encourage them to think broader than self. And by thinking a little bit more broadly than self, um, realize that if you do self-care, you're actually helping those around you. And so that's all I would say to them. But I'm not judging. I'm just, and I would also say this, and I write about this. Look, we all need a degree of prosperity in our life. Okay. The saying, it's expensive to be poor. That is true. If you're poor, go to a pawn shop. It's a very expensive loan. Okay. If you're rich and you got a bunch of money in the bank, you can get a really low interest rate loan. The same is true with your health. It is expensive to be unhealthy. So if you're struggling with money, if money is important to you, I'm going to tell you the same way that's expensive to be poor, it is expensive to be unhealthy. So this is just self-care. It's just self-care. I'm going to take care of myself to put myself in my best position. So I think those are, I'm just saying it like it is.
Good. Yeah, and it's true. I mean, I know someone going for cancer treatment in Germany, it's gonna be $150,000. Like, so if you're listening to this, what is paying a little bit more for some healthy food, which sometimes people are like, well, it does cost more to be healthy sometimes at the beginning, but in the long run, it's actually cheaper. So, um, yeah, something I'm pretty passionate about. So I love that, you're in that space. Um, if you could do it all over again, you're at a place where you're living kind of I feel like a little bit of your dream life. You're traveling when you want, you see your kids, you're doing what you want when you want. Which is really cool. I mean, that's where everyone wants to be. First of all, how many years has it been? And secondly, would you do it all over again? And if not, why?
How many years has it been since I've been living my best life?
Since you've
Oh,
got to where you're living your best life. When did you
mm.
start entrepreneurship?
Well, I mean, I think about when I'm 58 years old right now.
Okay.
So I'd say when I was 30 years old, I think I set out, I started my first partnership. It's called Jon Adams Financial. My former law school professor and I created Jon Adams Financial. We were investment bankers. We were guys that could get deals done for folks. So I think I'm on official. That was, I would say, around 30 years. So right, 28 years.
Yeah.
Um, and as I think we talked about, it hasn't all been roses
Of course
and
not.
this. I mean, it's been
Let's have the reality here.
yeah, no, there's a reality check, and it's had some real moments. But that's just the journey. That's going to be your journey. You're kidding I have yet to meet someone who it's just been, roses and rainbows every single day. And yeah, certainly I'm living my best life, but it's not all roses and rainbows for me every single day. It's not. I mean, I have my daily challenges. I've got my new business. We've got challenges in it. It's not all working perfect.
Right.
Hell no. So
So what gets you
so
through those challenges, John? Like, especially if you go back to
yeah.
were there ever days that, I mean, I'm sure you had days, but I don't know, maybe you didn't, that you wanted to quit. Obviously you didn't, but what do you feel was a difference maker between so many people quit and so many, very few people actually keep going? We're talking about wealth. Like I've had someone said that to me. They're like, well, what does the average person do? I'm like, the average person's broke. So, if someone's listening to this, I would imagine they're not average or they wouldn't be listening to podcasts like this. So they're not average. What do you feel are the separators that got you to where you're at right now? And or where some people like they start in even the same job, the same position, the same entrepreneurship, whatever, and they don't end up anywhere. What do you feel some of the separating factors are?
Well, first of all, I wrote a book on that.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so we're
And
certainly
guys, the
not going.
book will be in the show notes. Make sure to
Okay,
check it out.
but here's what I say. Here's what it is. First of all, I had the intention to succeed. I set in my mind, I am going to succeed. I am going to define this narrative of my life, and I will not let anyone else define that narrative. That's number one. And I had to hold that intention very clearly and crisply, even despite the wicked challenges and whiplashes of life. That's number one.
Like that.
Number two, step two, and below that, okay, the subheadings below that are I took care of my health. Okay. I when things were hard, what would I do? I'd go walk or I'd go run. I can't tell you how many times
So good.
on a run that the ideas, the solutions would drip on me,
Mm.
or I would just breathe and I would get that sunlight and some fresh air would come
Guys,
through.
that's gold right there. Like right
Yeah,
there. So many people instead go to like the TV and
yeah,
veg out and eat
yeah,
junk food, which
yeah.
is the opposite. So keep
That's
going, but that was
So move. So go move. Get yourself outside, get that fresh air, just start moving. And here's the other thing. Oh, if you exhaust yourself, no matter what's going, oh, I can't sleep. I'm so stressed. Go run 25 fucking miles. Excuse my French. You will sleep. Okay, go exhaust this body. Okay. And it will sleep and you will feel better. Okay. You're going to cause all these molecular changes when you're in your body, when you exercise and move. It's, you know, this body is a beautiful machine that we hardly understand how it all works. So move it. This, and then the other piece of it is work like hell. Okay. I might not be the smartest guy in the room, but no one will outwork me. Okay. And I developed what I call a realm of competency, or, I understood my shit better than anyone else in the room. And it wasn't because I was smart, it's because I did the work. You get up at 4, you read this, you read that, you listen to this, you listen to that. You're always at school. You never stop. There is no end to it. So those were the things that I did that gave me the confidence and the energy of this body to sustain me through the hard things, while keeping a very clear intention about what it is I want to achieve. And I'll mention it. Like, I developed these things. It's called my little prompt journal. It's like I did these daily. I developed this myself. I listened to Tim Ferriss and he did the 5 hour, the 5 minute prompt journal. This is years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, I did this. And I went to get this journal. It was like this 2 inches thick. It had a journal entry for the next 2 years or whatever. Well, I travel all the time. You know what I mean? I'm like, so I took these ideas and I put this little thing and I made it nice and tidy and small. And I could put it in my back pocket, or I can put it in my
Oh, I
suit, or
like
I
it.
could and I travel all the time. And I daily do my affirmations and I write down my priorities. And that act of writing, I'm telling you, if you are not writing it down, what you want and to attend to achieve, you're missing the boat. Sorry. That's the key step. So that's
Intention, move your body, get sleep. If you need to work harder to get there. Work your A off. And then, journal about what you want in life and write down
write it down, write it all
every
down
day.
and write it down every day. Consistency.
Man, it's amazing how so many people say the same thing. If you're listening to this, there's a tip.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well,
Did you have a lot of people or any people kind of throughout this that kind of said, "Hey, Jon, I mean, you started in financial services relatively young and you've stayed somewhat in the same space, it sounds like. But did you have a lot of doubters? And if so, how did you handle them?"
oh yeah, I've had doubters and haters and I was just unbelievable. Yeah. It's like, look, no one wants you to succeed. Here's the thing. Everyone's operating in a world of scarcity. So everyone thinks if you're succeeding, you're somehow taking their success away from them. By the way, nothing could be further from the truth.
Exactly.
Okay. We operate in a world of abundance. There is so much for everyone. It's ridiculous. But most people are operating in a scarcity mindset. So they hate you. They're envious. They say nice. I'm in, Minnesotan, so they say it's called Minnesota nice. They say really nice things and then go behind your back all the fucking time. I mean, excuse me. I drop F-bombs. Sorry. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, I had all my detractors. I mean, everyone. I mean, the only one who really wanted me to succeed was me. That's who wanted to succeed. My wife and my partner of now, we're going on 36 years together, and so she was my first partner in this I'll call mastermind alliance of wanting success and what did success look like, and we had a joint vision of what that looked like together, and we kept that very crisp. We didn't vacillate. We don't walk up the next day and go, oh, I want to do that. And like, no, no, that's what it's going to look like. So, and again, I found some sources of again positive psychology. I went back to some of that. I used to do audiobooks. I would listen to them. I found a few I just loved, and I would repeat and repeat and repeat and I burned it into my subconscious. So
What are
my
a
sub
couple what are a couple books that stand out on psychology that you really like that you would
my
recommend?
my favorite one is In His Own. First of all, it's not a book. Okay, so it's called In His Own Words. It's
Mhm.
Napoleon Hill, who is the author of Think and Grow Rich, which, by the way, I've tried to read like 8 times. I still can't read it. I'm sorry, Napoleon. I love you, but
Well,
I
I'm sure
cannot
this
read
will
your
this
book.
will resonate with a lot of people because I know a lot of people that feel that same way.
I cannot read his book. I'm like, but yet, if you listen to In His Own Words, okay, it's like 2.99 or something. Like it's basically it's a seminar they recorded in 1953 in Chicago. Okay, so it's a live seminar recording. And you listen to that, and I have listened to that shit. Excuse my French again. I'm sorry. I get excited. But I burned that. I burned that into my brain, and that's what my sub was running on. And look, in my book, I try to bring a lot of the things that he was speaking about into a construct for people to read and understand. So if you can't get through Think and Grow Rich, try Healthy, Wealthy, Longevity, and let me know how it goes. Because what's interesting about In His Own Words was Napoleon says in the speech, he goes, I don't have the last word on this. Maybe someone will take what I've done and make it better. So I guess he invited that opportunity, and I did my best.
That's cool. I remember the first book I ever read in like personal development was Think and Grow Rich. I was not recommended for a first book reading. By the way, I was like, I don't even know what I'm reading, but I'm reading it. I mean, I get it now, but yeah,
Yeah, tough one. It's a tough one to get
it
through,
is.
but
Yep,
but
yep.
but his,
It's so
what's
good.
great about Napoleon, and as he says, there's other folks, Norman Vincent. I like the old school guys. Norman Vincent Peale is a there's a bunch of the old school, but that's all based on Stoicism. So it all tracks back to Stoicism, and Stoicism actually comes to America. So our founding fathers and this idea of individual liberty. Sorry, we're in the U.S. down here. It's this idea of individual liberty and the pursuit of happiness,
Mhm.
right? Is this idea of Stoicism and positive psychology, and how do we take control of our own manifest destiny? And so that's what we're trying to do, which is, if I'm an entrepreneur, I'm taking control of my manifest destiny, of my personal journey. And that's what Napoleon speaks about. But that tracks back ultimately to Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is a wonderful place to go.
That book is a hard one. That one I have
Audio
read.
audiobook that one. And there, by
Okay.
the way,
I'm
there's
like,
there's
I
there's
read
an
that
there's a
one. I have no idea what I read. I still like, don't ask me. No idea. I got through it.
audiobook it. And by the way, there's one guy who reads it and it's horrible. There's another guy who reads it and it's like really good.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a not to be read, but to be listened
Like, I
to.
don't even know what I'm reading.
Yeah,
I'm like, eventually my subconscious will know what I'm
yeah.
reading, so they'll figure
You know
it
what?
out.
That's right. You know what you're reading? Get your mind right. Get control over this first, because it's the only thing you have true control over.
Right. And so I'm like, well, I'll put this stuff in and it'll it knows what's going on. I might not know consciously, but subconsciously it understands this stuff.
I'm pointing. For those who are listening, I'm pointing to my head. All of this is all just about the first thing to take control over is your head,
Everything.
because it's the only thing you have total control over. And so get control over your head, get control over your thoughts, direct those thoughts towards what you want, and then begin taking some action in furtherance of that. That's it.
That's cool. I like that. So where do you see you headed? What's your goal now with everything, John? I mean, you reach, like I said, some levels of success as far as like life is good. Maybe don't need to work. Like I always love when people get kind of to that point, but they want to work. Like what are your goals for where you're going now? And what drives you to get up every day?
You know, I'm a big believer of the Warren Buffett way of retiring. Retire at 95. Okay, this modern idea of retirement, again,
Mhm.
everyone's got their own journey. I get it, but modern retirement and the construct of 65, and now you go to the golf course and you start. And look, if that's what you want to do, do it. But just FYI, that's a total modern construct that was invented. That has no kind of concept in reality. Plus, by the way, 65 is the new 35. Trust me. And so this body and mind at 65, what it has the capacity to do is like amazing. So like what I don't know. So what gets me going? Like I just love to work. I love to do things. I love to create. I love to innovate. Longevity Financial Partners going to do some really, I think, exciting things in the financial planning space in the not too distant future. So I'm working on some things. Can't talk about all that now, but stay tuned.
Stay tuned. I love it. That's awesome. Well, wrapping up, I always have three final questions and then anything we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners. So first and final question is, if someone's looking for their purpose, what is one sentence you would say that could help them find it?
Stop where you are and look around you and look what you like to do today. Don't find a shiny object. Just look at your current environment and do something in right there. I trust me. You already have some. Your purpose is junk food and sugar and all that. Great. Well, then go organize your pantry. Like get a better shopping list. Buy stuff on sale. Start a blog. Talk about. I mean, I don't. So my advice is look inside. Look for purpose. It's right there. You're doing it already. You can find it. You don't have to go far. Purpose can be very small. Doesn't have to be some grandiose concept. Just like right there. Like my purpose can be clean up my room today and keep it clean for the next few days. Wow. That's a great purpose. Trust me, you will feel better about your whole life. Okay.
Awesome. Second question, what's a favorite quote and why?
Yeah. I was thinking about this because I knew you were coming with these. Um, well, my first one is, and it's a Napoleon Hill quote, which is there's no explaining man or woman's indifference to themselves. We've talked a little bit about this, meaning we know the right thing to do. We know we should do it, and we don't. And I do it. By the way, I'm guilty of this all the time.
Mhm.
So there's the other one is, how do you swallow a whale? One bite at a time. Okay. So those are two sentences that I think will really help, you know, you and anyone listening in any point of their journey. Yeah.
Cool.
And you'll recognize it too, but you'll recognize it with others. Like, oh my gosh, I can't. I mean, I've had employees, I'm like, I can't believe they're self-sabotaging themselves right now. Like you can't explain their indifference to themselves, but that's okay. Maybe it'll lead them to something better that they wanted.
Right. It's a good one. And third and final question is, what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
His life was a dream. My life was a dream,
Like it.
and that came from my mother who passed in the last year, and really was the inspiration for the book, Healthy, Wealthy Longevity. When she was 83, she got cancer. She's like, yeah, that's it. I'm good. We're not going to do chemo. We're not going to do this, and we're all freaking out. Like, whoa, what do you mean, Mom? I mean, that wasn't the plan. And she's like, no, my life's been a dream. And longevity got real personal to me in a way that it hadn't before. It was a probabilistic actuarial calculation, a molecular biomarker, this, that, and anything else. And all of a sudden, longevity, this time that we have on this, blessed earth, is our most precious asset. And and at the end of life, when we're all going to get there, you want to be able to look back and say, my life's been a dream, And so, yeah, that's what I want.
Cool. So you're running someone in a coffee shop, they listen to this, they're working on their health, all the things we talked about. What's something we didn't talk on or get touched that you think would be really impactful to leave our listeners with?
Go to jonsabes.com, buy those pocket prompt journals. I will guarantee you, I will, and if it money back guarantee, if you buy them and you do 90 days, so it's a 3-pack, 30 days each, money back guarantee on this show. If it didn't change your life, I will definitely refund your money.
Cool.
Okay. So
That's a
no,
good guarantee. I like it.
Yeah, I got a money. In fact, I'm going to put that on my website, money back guarantee, because I do
Yeah,
believe
100%.
so.
I
You
believe
know, so
that.
if you're in a coffee shop listening, go right now, Jon Sabes.com. I don't know, it's not that $30. It's an investment in yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, trust. And if it didn't work, let me know. I'll send you $30 back.
Cool. I like that. That's awesome. Very cool. Guys, that all those information too will be in the show notes, the links, all the things, the books, the website, where you can find Jon, all of that. Reach out, if you have any questions. Obviously, you can tell Jon is really approachable and happy to chat. Let's go out there. If we can change one life or one starfish at a time together, we can help change the world. Thanks for being on, Jon.
Thank you for having me.